sinners, and saints. Dust off those horns and halos. It's time for Alan After Dark.
It feels quiet tonight. It feels like the world is asleep and I'm by myself talking to you. It feels soothing, especially when I reveal something that took me by surprise. I can't believe it, but this is the 1-year anniversary episode of Alan After Dark. It's hard to believe we've made it this far, but we just keep going and going and going. I have sort of romanticized the podcast, and what I mean by that is that I can picture all of you listening to me. Some of you may be on a winding mountain road with my voice in the background, or on a desert highway at night with a star-studded sky overhead, or maybe you're relaxing on a beach on the Mediterranean, or maybe jogging in New York or LA or Paris, London, Singapore, Nova Scotia, or maybe just chilling, lying in bed, listening to this train wreck of a podcast and hopefully getting some joy out of it. Now, I'm not sure how to actually put together an anniversary episode, so we really aren't going to do that. We're just going to keep on keeping on like we always do. All I'll say is thank you, everyone, for listening to Alan After Dark. The other day, I was walking with a really good friend of mine, and we have this great route that we take that's along the waterfront. It's called the Riverwalk. And we were just doing a normal chatting, which can be dirty sometimes. And I think I told you all that I am a people watcher, and I'm always trying to pay attention to what's going on around me. This guy walks by, and I just say, he's gay. And I was like, how did I know that? Just by the way he walked. And it got me to thinking about body language, all types of body language, the ways that we communicate without ever saying a word. And as we started talking about it, when I just said that, well, I just kind of know based on the mannerism of his walking that he's gay. And my friend said, well, I guess I could see that. And he said, he pointed out a person that we know, and he said, you know, he kind of walks like he would be an asshole. And I'm like, you know what? You're absolutely right. That he actually does carry himself in a way that evokes those kinds of feelings from other people. And I got to thinking, is it a stronger language, body language, than actual words? I've spent many times at a club giving people a look that I wanted them to understand meant that I was interested in them. And do I purposely walk a certain way to give off an image that I want to project? Does that make any sense? Probably doesn't. Welcome to the train wreck, right? How often do we actually confuse the body language and read into it something that we wanted it to mean when it really didn't mean that? And how can we come up with a method that would clarify your actions without having to use words? I mean, my luck is that this guy's staring at me from across the bar, and I would go over to say hi, and he would say, I'm sorry, I was just trying to focus on that sign that was behind you. I don't have my glasses on. That'd be my luck. Is there an intention with our mannerisms, the way we stand, the way we look, the way we turn our head or sit, all those things? Is it all truly just a natural way of doing things for us? Or is there some sort of subconscious or even intentional method of doing what we do? I can remember years ago at the bar, I was actually watching a drag show, and there was now don't forget, I was young once, and I was very young then, this night, and there was an older guy that was sitting across the way. I did notice at first that he was staring at me quite a bit, and then just all of a sudden he just mouthed right at me, "I want to fuck you."
What? Ugh.
Oh my God.
Damn, 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 damn.
I just kind of smiled and looked away back to the show, pretending like I didn't care that he said that, and kind of worried. I didn't want other people to see that he was looking at me saying that. And actually, I wasn't absolutely 100% sure that he was saying it to me. There have been several times in my life when somebody's been trying to get someone's attention from a distance, like waving or something, and I thought they were waving at me. So you wave back and then realize that they're really not waving at you at all. And you just want to kind of pretend like you were just rubbing your head or scratching your eye or something, just to avoid any excess embarrassment. Even though I'm sure we've all done that, right? We've all mistaken someone's wave for us when it was for someone else. We're only human after all, right? But he verbalized, well, he didn't verbalize, he mouthed words to, I guess, add icing to the cake, so to speak. I could tell by the way he was looking at me that he wanted to have sex, but he just had to add that little extra on the end to make sure that that his intentions were 100% known. I do know that the direct approach sometimes is the best way to do it too. And I can remember once, it was at the end of the night, the club was going to be closing in about 30 minutes. And I was really horny and I wanted some. And there was this he was a really hot guy. And what's hard to explain, but there was a balcony at one of our clubs that was different than the sunken dance floor at the one place. This one had a balcony that overlooked the whole dance area, and you could see a lot of the club from up there. And he was up there leaning against the railing, looking down at the gigantic dance floor that was becoming more and more empty the later it got. Anyway, I tried to get his attention several times, and I couldn't seem to get him to look my way. So I finally said, you know what, fuck it. I went right up beside him, leaned against the railing, looked over at him, and just said, "You want a blowjob?" He looked over at me with these serious eyes, and he was like, "Well, yeah, but where can we go?" And I was just like, "Don't worry about that. I know exactly where we can go." I was like, "Well, what do you know? That actually worked." It's not as fun, though, is it? I like the flirtation. I like the looks and the smiles and the glances. And I like it when somebody comes up beside me and they start chatting and you can tell that they're just, well, you know what they want in most cases. Sometimes it is to develop maybe a friendship or the possibility of maybe just going out on a date. But in my experience, 98% of the time, it was to slap and tickle. I'll just put it that way. Now, I will confess, like I always do, that sometimes some of my manners, my behaviors, are intentional because I want to send a not so subtle message to someone that I'm interested in, or I'm just testing the waters, so to speak. There's one guy that I am absolutely, I don't know what it is exactly. It's the way he looks, the way he talks, his voice is it just gets me going. I don't know how to explain it, where you feel chemistry with someone and there's a little flirtation in our conversation, even though it might be a more business topic that we're talking about. And so, one time I kind of turned in the chair so that I'm facing directly toward him as he's standing there, just to see if he will glance down toward my crotch area to see if there's any possibility that he might be interested in a physical connection. Well, so far, he hasn't, that I could tell, did the little sudden glance down and back up. But let me ask you this, guys, gay guys in particular. Have you ever seen a guy grab their dick, rub their crotch to get your attention? If they do an adjustment, do you glance down? Sometimes I think we can't help it. I can't help it sometimes. I try my best to resist, especially if I know it's a straight guy who's having underwear problems or something. But sometimes, in the back of my mind, I have to wonder, did he do that on purpose to see if I would glance and look? And is there an ulterior motive? Not just that they're uncomfortable, but maybe that they're trying to give a signal. I'll say this, people kind of frown upon me in my manspreading, when you spread your legs wide. But I gotta tell you, if you've got balls as big as mine, sometimes that just happens. Have you ever sat on your balls? Sweet God and baby Jesus help us. You want to talk about pain. I think an appendectomy would be less painful than sitting on your own balls. Jesus.
Balls are not a toy.
Speaking of body language, I wondered if you guys are like me. I walk at a certain pace. Now, I can walk at a slower pace or an even faster pace, depending upon what's going on. But like if you're, say it's quitting time at work, and you're heading to the car, and you're walking with some of your coworkers, and you always have that one that is so much slower in walking that you're just like, why can't you walk faster? Is there a reason? I mean, you're 20 years younger than me, and you're walking so slow. I guess I'm judging there on things like that as well, that your physical behaviors are a reflection of your personality. It might be something that would frustrate me or you, but I'm sure that they are frustrated with us that we walk so much faster, even though for us it's a very casual walk and they are just super slow. All these things seem to be connected with body language, with parts of our own personality that are more than just the words we speak. We absolutely use body language as another indicator of what a person is like. But when we talk about your actual sexual orientation, I guess you can say that even though there might be some types of physical behaviors, like the way you sit, the way you walk, hand gestures, things like that, there's no absolute in anything. Just because someone might be more flamboyant or walk fast or maybe they sachet chante, that doesn't necessarily make them gay. And I think that's what can throw people a lot. I know that some of the quote unquote butchest guys, how they sit, the sports they like, their behaviors in a bar, belching and stuff. And yet they'll grab their ankles faster than most porn stars. We have to kind of throw out those old paradigms, don't we? Those stereotypes that we believe define people. I also can appreciate that body language was a secret code back in the day when being gay was not only illegal, but dangerous. And if you knew the way to look at a guy or to offer an expression, it was a way to hook up with someone before there were even clubs. Now, there were clubs, of course, even in the 30s and 40s, but they were like exclusive clubs that you had to have like a secret code, a secret knock or something to go in, because they were always vulnerable to being raided and everyone being arrested, beaten, and even then you were always still in danger if you shared the code or the body language with someone that could have been an undercover cop. you may have ruined it for everyone. So you were always on guard. Your body language, especially, you knew that you only could act a certain way in public or risk being outed and put in jail. I think the younger generations really they're lucky. Well, we're all lucky now, but I think a lot of those skills are being lost because, well, we have the hookup apps and there is a sense of freedom that we have now that we didn't have even 20 years ago. But there's always a risk of those times coming back, and it would be frightening for people. It's a frightening thought to think about losing all the rights that we have, and that perhaps the government would be using the hookup apps to arrest men and charge them with renewed sodomy laws. It's always a possibility. But I'll give you another example of, well, maybe this is a different type of body language. This is actually with physical contact. At the Pride festivities last weekend, we were sitting at one of the wonderful taverns in the shade, enjoying the breeze, even though it was an ungodly hot day. And a lot of the people that came in to have a drink or two as we were enjoying the day, one of them is a guy that I've had a crush on for years and years and years. We've actually talked about in the past where we never did really connect with each other. He had told me that he really did like me, but never approached me, and I never seemed to notice him. And I feel bad because I don't think I noticed him back then. And I would have, I'm certain, because I find him so attractive now. Well, anyway, he winds up sitting beside me at the table. And I'll confess, I've had a couple of cocktails, and I might be a little high. And we always have had good chemistry, and we are good friends. But I have this thing, we'll call it a fetish. I think guys with hairy legs are just the bomb diggity, okay? I think they're hot. And if a guy's wearing shorts beside me and I know him, I usually will reach over and I will just play with the hair on their legs. I do. It's just one of those things I do, especially if I'm under the influence of things like alcohol. Well, we were chatting and we had a whole round table of people and we're having a blast. And before I knew it, I was reaching over and I was just pulling on his hair on his upper thigh. I didn't think anything about it. There was nothing more than just me wanting to play with the hair on his legs. I didn't have an intention of like wanting to say, let's get in the back seat of a car, or let's go to the men's room in this tavern and I'll blow you. That never came to my mind. But unfortunately, I think it did to him, because after just a couple of seconds, he got up and moved. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe I was turning him on. You think? Is that a real possibility that I was? Nah, I just made him uncomfortable, and I just had to go over and say sorry later on. And before you all jump up and down and start screaming that, oh my God, you sexually harassed him. No, I have touched him before on his hairy legs, and it's always been okay. So before you jump to some sort of conclusion here, sinners and saints, remember, I always respect other people's boundaries. It's someone I had done it with before. Okay? Cool. But if he had said, yo, let's go to the men's room, hell's bells, I'd have been right up in there ready to rock it, I'm telling you. So it was physical contact, but, technically, I guess that is body language, isn't it? You're not verbalizing, you're physicalizing. Is that a word? Probably not. But I have found myself kind of like surprised at just talking about the level of body language, how it does reach us, how it connects us. It is really food for thought, isn't it? It's really a surprise when you start really analyzing how much a part body language is of our everyday life. I mean, an angry stare, a hateful stare, a jealous stare, a lustful stare, the way we walk, the way we sit, the way we move every single day. Isn't it funny? Even the way we sneeze. Why do we sneeze differently? Why aren't all sneezes the same? I've always thought that was interesting. But then again, the way we react when we're having an orgasm is different too. I know you all have been just like me in your past experiences or your experiences now. You've got the guys that are kind of quiet. You've got the ones that do the heavy breathing, which I think is hot as fuck. And you have the man screamers who you think you're ripping their nuts off when they're coming. Like it's the best, the greatest orgasm they've ever had every damn time. Oh, I wish I was like that. Even though I guess I am a little bit of a groaner grunter. Sometimes get a little too loud. But, hell's bells, it's fun, right? Thank you for joining me for the 1-year anniversary episode of Alan After Dark. I've had a lot of fun, and I hope you have too. Remember, take life by the balls and be real. We'll see you soon. Thank you.